So I'm gonna be telling y'all about a birthing center in Austin that basically scammed my boyfriend and I and took our money and had us running around while I was in labor doing their job. So it started 2 days before my due date. They called me and they said basically they wanted to induce me based off an ultrasound that was for checking for a left hand. And they said based off that ultrasound, my son had fetal growth restriction. Basically they said he's in the 6th percentile and they need 10 and above. So I call my boyfriend, he rushes home. He says, let's go get a second opinion. We're not just gonna jump at induction when this came out of left field. I had a low risk pregnancy in every aspect, in every test and everything. So we go get a second opinion at the hospital. They monitored my son and I for 10 hours. Everything looked great. They did an ultrasound. Based off their ultrasound and their medical opinion, they said, your son does not have fetal growth restriction, and he's in the 16th percentile, and they don't see in any way or any reason why I should be induced. 2 days before my due date. So we give that information over to the birthing center. Now, before we went to the hospital, the midwife kept repeating herself. She said, no, you need to go get induced right now. You just go to this hospital. And we kept asking, can you explain to us? Because she just kept saying medical terms and we didn't really understand. So we asked her to just explain it more simply, and she snapped and she said, well, your baby's gonna die if you don't follow our advice. And at the point I was like, I don't want to talk anymore. I don't want to hear anymore. And then that's when we went to the hospital. So I was still in contact with the birthing center. I let them know what the hospital said, and they said, okay, well, we're in a gray area. We're going to see. And they got the fax number from the hospital and they were doing their thing. So one day before my due date, I asked them, like, did you get the ultrasound? And they said, oh, we're still in the gray area. And so the next day comes, which is my due date, and at 4 a.m. my water breaks. So we weren't sure exactly what to do. My boyfriend calls the birthing center and he said, hey, y'all kept telling us we're in a gray area. We're not quite sure what the plan should be right now. Do we go to the hospital? Do we come to y'all? What should we do? At this point, it was already 411, which is 5 minutes apart for 1 hour, or 5 minutes apart, a minute long for an hour straight. I was already at that. So we go, I'm at 4 centimeters. And the lady says, okay, well, we're not quite there yet. Go back home. We're gonna get this figured out. So she's doing her thing. She said if it was up to her, if she was the midwife on shift and it wasn't about to be a shift change, she would have had me birth there. So since it was a different one, she was getting in contact with the midwife that was going to essentially gonna be my midwife for the birth. She asked her how she feels about the situation, and the midwife asked for another ultrasound. So we go and get a second ultrasound. We're driving all over the place. I'm still in labor. So we went to the hospital. We got another ultrasound. We let them know, hey, here's a DVD, since they couldn't figure out how to fax it to them for some reason. And so we drive 40 minutes to the hospital, 40 minutes to the birthing center. We give it to them. At this point, we're already driving all over the place. It was honestly, being in the car while being in labor, it was too much. So, because we drove 40 minutes to the midwife, just for them to say, oh, go back home. We're not quite there yet. We're going to figure it out. Drove 40 minutes back home. Then drove to the hospital. And then drove to the birthing center, which are about, it was like an hour. And then we drove at the birthing center. She said, oh, well, you're in the 9th percentile. Your son's in the 9th percentile with his abdomen. So, unfortunately, you can't birth here. At that moment, we got up, we left. We didn't waste any more time, went straight to the hospital. Even the hospital staff hearing this were appalled. The way that they acted, they were very condescending. They were rude. Of course, there were some nice ones in there, but majority overall, it's like they stuck to their ways. They stuck to their side. They chose the company over people. That's the energy that they gave. So, I end up laboring in the hospital. They asked me a couple months later, hey, you owe us money. So, I already was paying full price, even though I came to that birthing center at 34 weeks. And yet, they wanted me to pay the rest off. But they broke the contract. So they expect me to pay them for what they didn't do. The whole point was to birth there. And I already gave them the non-refundable down payment and about $1,500 in payments. And they want more. And they're saying, well, don't you think, they have the audacity to say, don't you think the midwives deserve compensation for the work that they did? What work? What work? Last time I checked, you didn't do literally the whole point, which was to help me labor. So, no. Simple. So they sent me to collections. So in my opinion, I don't recommend the South Austin area birthing center. Save your money. Find somewhere else. Make the drive, honestly. Stay safe.